All right, we are back from break and ready for session 7. Why didn't we do this before? Examining, implementing, and evaluating changes in library services by Lisa Errico, Leslie Wong Loock, and Shikha Joseph. Leslie Wong Loock is an assistant professor at Nassau Community College's A. Holly Patterson Library. As the head of research and instruction, she helps to ensure that the information literacy needs of the students are met. Leslie graduated from CUNY Queens College Graduate School of Library and Information Science in 2006 and joined the Librarians at NCC in 2016. Prior to working at NCC, she worked for the United States Courts, a law school, and as an attorney. Lisa Errico is an associate professor at Nassau Community College's A. Holly Patterson Library. As the head of the library's resource management unit, her position combines both cataloging and acquisitions responsibilities. She received her MLS from Queens College, CUNY, and has been with the library since 1994. Shikha Joseph is the Emerging Technologies Librarian and instructor at Nassau Community College's A. Holly Patterson Library. Her duties involve working with both research and instruction and resource management units. Shikha received her MLS from CUNY Queens College Graduate School of Library and Information Science in 2009 and joined NCC Library in 2019. Take it away, presenters.
Hi, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you. So good afternoon, and thank you for the introductions. We're going to treat this like a mini lightning round. 3 Nassau Community College librarians talking about the roles that they do, because we do 3 different roles, and how we changed for the better after the pandemic or during the pandemic. So my name is Lisa Errico. I am the resource management librarian. I do acquisitions, collection development, and some cataloging. And we changed some of our formatting and some of our workflows. One of the things that we did, and I'm sure most of you did this too, is we totally abandoned print. We focused just on digital resources because we learned pretty quickly that print had very little value in a pandemic and with a highly contagious virus. Although previously to the pandemic, we were moving in this direction, in retrospect, we should have moved much more quickly and devoted most of our energy into the digital and electronic resources. We also wanted to rethink how our PDAs were working. We wanted to get more control of them. So we went from automatic PDA purchases to a more mediated review. Case in point was Kanopy. Kanopy, our PDA, was working great until the pandemic hit and all the classes went remote. Of course, the requests for purchases increased dramatically, our budget was blown away, and students and faculty were very unhappy. So we decided to look at this more closely, and we decided to mediate all the requests. So I get the requests, and I flip them over to Shikha, who's in our research and instructional services unit, and she checks to see if there's a duplicate title in another resource or whether we can get it free. And she'll talk about that more later. The third thing that we reconsidered was the format of the resource. This year, we started to move towards more app-based resources. We found that they were familiar to the students and faculty and easier to use. And it was nice that they could open up their device and bam, they'll see a library resource. The 2 that we purchased this year was a subscription to NewYorkTimes.com, which replaced the historical New York Times, and Cloud Library, which replaced Overdrive. And not only were these more receptive to the faculty and students, but they saved us tons of money. Excuse me. The next thing we did was greater collaboration. due to not only the pandemic, but lots of retirements and no replacements, we really had to work together to manage and look at new resources. So with the Research and Instructional Services Unit and we began to vet new resources. We put our heads together, not only from a budget point of view, but from a usage point of view, and things worked out so well. We also collaborated on a textbook libguide, like Jane and Phoebe had talked about in the last program. Most of our textbooks were in the print format. So when the pandemic hit and everything was remote, we worked together on libguides and provided those textbook platforms that had those textbooks free. And this was very helpful to the students and faculty. So I'm going to turn it over to Shikha Joseph, who's our Emerging Technology Librarian.
Hi, everyone. I'm Emerging Technologies, and so basically I take care of the streaming databases, the regular databases, and all of that electronic resources management. So the first thing that we noticed when we closed down, and we closed down a few days before the city, we closed down March 10th. So within a week, I think we hit our PDA budget with Kanopy, because all of a sudden, everyone that we had bought DVDs for previously, or just professors were changing up their curriculum. So we maxed out very quickly. And so the first thing we did was we moved different PDA to mediated. And I think we had talked about that previous to closing down, but we didn't think the purchases would be that fast and that quick. So as soon as that happened, Kanopy was pretty nice about it. They switched us within a couple of hours to mediated. And then that created another issue, because all of a sudden faculty and students were able to just go on, and they weren't able to just start a film and start watching. So that was creating a lot of issues. And but we did that on purpose. We wanted to make it a new request process, and we knew a lot of people were not going to be happy about it, but that is the way we wanted to do. And we wanted to have both Swank and Kanopy line up in terms of our new media workflow. So the first thing we did was, obviously, faculty had to request the title through Kanopy. So Kanopy has a request the title for your institution, so they did that. And Lisa Errico would receive the request because she's the resource management, and then she forwards it to me. And in this request, students can do it as well. But as soon as I get it, I email them back saying, who's your professor, who's your class, and then I contact the professor. We're not buying stuff for students. We just don't have the budget. And this also brings into light professors who are letting students just go on Kanopy and watch like 1 or 2 movies for one assignment. We just couldn't have that anymore. That was just too much of a waste of resources, because if that student did a very particular project, no one was going to watch those films again. So that took care of a lot of issues as well. And then once I get this request, I have an Excel list for streaming media statistics. The next thing that I do in the workflow now is that I check if the film is another database. 9 out of 10 times our professors still don't use films on demand. I'm not sure why. I'm always pushing it out there. But I check on there, and usually I find it. And then I'll check Swank, but Swank really doesn't have too many documentaries and whatnot. And then over the end of summer, me and Lisa had attended a webinar from Video Library that talked about streaming media and checking some other resources to see if it is elsewhere. And they had recommended Tubi TV, Just Watch, Telescope, and Real Good. And so I check all of those as well. And if we find something, I send the link out. And if I don't, we purchase it. And then the third step is I let the faculty know these are your links, or we couldn't find it for free, or we can't find it all, so you have to do a DVD. Then we purchase it through Kanopy. Now we offer them a 1 or 3 year because Kanopy offers a little bit of a lower price with the 3 year. And I'm surprised how many faculty use this. So I'm surprised that we were able to save some money in that as well. The next thing, once it's live, I'll test access, because sometimes faculty will go on and be like, I don't see it, and it'll be down at the bottom of the page. Oh, you can stay at the previous slide. And then I add this new purchase to another Excel list of purchases, and then I put in the requester and the expiration dates. And the renewals, which happens every month as well, I'll ask faculty, do you want to renew this or not? So this is all the new workflow, which we didn't have before. And then the same process is with Swank. So in the next slide, there were some really big outcomes that we got from streamlining this, from going from PDA to mediated. But we got a lot of benefits aside from just the money saving. The first thing is the statistics. We didn't have statistics for Kanopy before. Aside from the statistics of how many times the movie or film has been watched, but that wasn't really helpful. Now, each faculty or student request comes in, we count that as a statistic for us. So that's actually, I think I had close to like 1,000 last year, and I'm thinking that's pretty high because of COVID, but already in the past couple of months for January and February, it's already been a good amount. Budget, obviously, we're no longer triggering purchases for multiple students for one assignment. Faculty's using films on demand more. They're getting a little bit more savvier with internet resources. And then the 1 or 3 year option with Kanopy. The improved renewal process. Also, Kanopy doesn't send you monthly expiration emails like Swank. Like Swank will send you an email saying these movies are expiring. What do you want to do? Kanopy, it expires. And a lot of faculty was not happy that they were being blindsided. And this has happened more than I can tell you last year. So in December, one of the reasons I started keeping the Excel was making sure I know when titles were expiring, so I can get them that month to the faculty and say, hey, this is going to be expired. Do you want to renew this? So it actually created some good PR for us. And then the last thing is now our Kanopy and Swank workflow and the request and renewal procedures of faculty is exactly the same. So they're happy with that too, because now they're not wondering, well, what do I do with my Kanopy? What do I do with my Swank? They know they're getting that one email from me, and then everything goes through that automated thing with Lisa, and then I take over. And so this was the part of our Kanopy, and Leslie Wong Loock will discuss the research and instruction changes.
Hello, as Shikha said, I'm Leslie Wong Loock, and I am in charge of research and instruction at the NCC Library. I have to say, up until this point, up until the time we had to pivot, we were forced to pivot to online learning. The culture at NCC was very traditional. The faculty, the teaching faculty were very resistant, not the librarians, but the teaching faculty, classroom faculty were very resistant to a lot of changes and an online environment. But when we were all forced to sort of go forward into this, culture shock of the online Zoom classes, they actually took to it rather well. And so for me, coming up with ways to help the faculty and help the students along with the other, with the other reference librarians, we decided that it would be giant leaps forward into a lot of programs that they might not be 100% familiar with at once. So what we did was tweak a lot of our existing services onto the online environment. And obviously one of the things that we did along with everybody else is do synchronous live Zoom classes. Up until this point, we had been pretty rigid about the 1 hour and 15-minute format, which is the amount of time that classes are averaging at NCC. And so what we did was offer shortened sessions. And the faculty loved this. They were really happy with 20-minute or 30-minute Zoom sort of snack library sessions, right? Pop-ins, where we could teach 1 or 2 related things that they needed specifically for their class and leave. And they were really, for the first time, this was an option for them, because with an hour and 15-minute class, they had to come into the library. And by the time they got there, we were probably only really teaching for 50 minutes. But one of the joys of Zoom was that we could go in for a 20-minute session and nothing, you didn't really feel like a lot was lost. I do have to say, I followed those up at the end of the 20-minute sessions with specific database tasks with an offer for one-on-one Zoom sessions for their students. And although that's last on the bullet list, they're actually very related, because if you can do a 20-minute session with a one-on-one with a student, it's very effective to help students get the assistance that they need and almost get more out of it than they would have from a Zoom class. A second thing that we did was short videos, and that was they're very specific, and they're asynchronous learning. And we chose to do these short videos because it's very difficult to pay attention to a 45-minute YouTube video, but anything under 10 minutes was able to keep our students' attention. And the student and the faculty could assign multiple 10-minute videos for the students to watch. We found that these videos worked really good when they were paired with a research assignment that the faculty member had. The students really enjoyed them, and our YouTube views have gone way up. We chose YouTube instead of some of the programs that were provided to us, even that the college has, because we find that YouTube is comfortable for students the same way that Google is, right? There's no barrier for entry. There's no player that they have to download. They can just access it from their phone. Accessing things from their phone was one of the things that we found very important to our faculty and students, because we are a community college and we have very many students who have varying socioeconomic levels. The phone was like the common denominator where they could get to everything. So anything that was available via YouTube, even with us teaching, or they could access Zoom from their phones, that was probably the best way to go. Another thing that we already had was an information literacy tutorial via LibWizard. That's also available on our homepage, and I can share our URL in the link in the chat with you when I'm done. But the information literacy tutorial is another thing that is available in smaller chunks, and a teacher can assign one section or all the sections of that tutorial to their students. One of the things that we had been doing all along was this, and there was actually a very high usage of the information literacy tutorial already. However, during this time, it was even greater. The one complaint about it that we got from faculty members was that it was very difficult for them to grade on LibWizard, and they wanted to be able to perform assessment, right, on the tutorials. And so recently we've created a digital literacy tutorial on Blackboard, and this is a native Blackboard format. So faculty can assign chunks of this as quizzes directly into their classroom, or all of it, right? So there's about 8 parts of it, and because we are a community college, sometimes we're starting at square one with what the students know about digital literacy. And so the faculty wanted the easier integration into their classrooms, and they were able to get this, and they were able to assign the sections that they want to from there. Lastly, like I said, the one-on-one Zoom sessions, we find that this best mimics the reference desk, and it's not only just screen mirroring, but we do believe that the students are kind of craving a little bit of interaction and personal touch. So when you can speak to someone live and they're helping you do your homework or your assignments, that was, a lot of students report being very happy with that service. these are the things we'll take forward. We tried a few other different things, which were failures, but I don't want to block up your time with that. What I really want to do is open up the floor for not only questions, but to hear what other libraries have been doing during this time to help their students and their faculty ease into, information literacy instruction and online materials or other methods that they have. To hear from the audience what has been happening in other libraries. So if you could put some, of your comments or questions into the Q&A or the chat, we'd love to hear them.
Thanks, Leslie. While everyone is doing that, there is a question. This might be for Shikha. Have you had any issues with faculty unable to stream in Kanopy titles live during class due to copyright restrictions, DRM? Yes. A professor can't live stream a film in a class to students using Teams, for example. Do you want to take that?
Yes, we actually were testing that yesterday. Leslie and I extensively for several hours. One of the deans reached out, and I've had faculty come in asking me. And one thing we did know that Zoom was, not only with Kanopy, but I think Films on Demand and Swank definitely, they're not allowing it. So what we told professors to do was have the students play the clip and on their computers and then do it. But the whole time I was able to do it from my computer, and I have a MacBook Pro, and I didn't realize this, and I didn't put two and two together for several weeks. And then I realized, oh, I'm able to do it for some reason. And I think it's because there's some settings on my computer that were working, and then we tried on a PC and it didn't work. So we actually have to create this whole new thing with the dean next week. So that has been a problem. Some professors of ours have bought external DVDs, a DVD player, and been playing stuff. People, I don't know why there's this they don't think the student can play the clip for that 2 minutes during class or 5 minutes, and then they all can discuss it. They really want to be in charge of that clip. And I think what's going to happen next week is I think they're going to say, hey, you got to loosen up a little bit and just let the students play the clip, even if it's on their phone. I understand our students are not, a little bit, there's not all the economic sources, but I'm pretty sure they can, or even the professor can just hold the class for a few minutes so they can watch it and then come back to Blackboard or Zoom or whatever they're using.
Thank you. Leslie, I think we have one for you. It might be useful to give a quick list of what didn't work, just so others could learn what not to do. And she assures us this is meant in a very positive, supportive way. You want to weigh in?
Fully understand that. So one of the things I could say that for sure didn't work was drop-in Zoom times. If you have someone sitting on Zoom waiting for people to come in, that is a terrible waste of time. I would not recommend that for anybody. It's a completely underused resource, and that is definitely not something that would work. I'm more than happy to hear from other people also what didn't work on their end, but I'm trying to think of some things that were less popular than others. Let's see. Something else that didn't really work, any kind of podcast is not great for libraries from our end. Only people that are really, really interested are going to tune into that. So I think what works the most is the targeted instruction and instruction that's targeted towards the faculty assignments. If any kind of what hasn't been working is any kind of almost open training where there's no goal intended, which seems to be the common theme, even with the Zoom, just having a librarian waiting there is it's not the same as a reference desk, unfortunately.
Okay, so Melissa Tidd said that she's from SUNY Orange. We moved our library instruction classes onto Zoom as well as provided one-on-one Zoom sessions. They have a form so students can request a Zoom session. She also said that sometimes having a librarian wait in a Zoom session with no students was a waste of time. So she agreed.
Yeah, it really is. Okay, so
And Leslie, they also would like you to post that LibWizard tutorial if you can. You can send
Sure,
the link to that.
I'm going to put it right in the chat right now. And I'm going to send it to all panelists and attendees. Okay, here it goes. So that it's available right off of our homepage, which is library.ncc.edu, but here's the direct link. I'm seeing some other questions about the information literacy tutorial. So one of them is, how long is your information literacy tutorial? And it's about 8 sections. I believe we timed it on students last year, and it was taking about 45 minutes for completion, which is why sometimes the teachers broke it up depending on what they decided was important. I'm so sorry. I did not see it on your homepage. Access.
Yeah, I totally realized that the Q&A, I was looking at the chat and the Q&A.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you, did the link for the ILT go through, or should I?
It's in the chat. I see it in the chat.
Oh, okay.
So I can go through some of these other ones.
Yeah.
Was the library already creating content and posting videos on YouTube, or was that a skill you had to pick up during the pandemic?
We picked that up.
That was a quick pickup skill.
That was not something we were doing before.
And they wanted us to do it in the first week. So like,
in the first week,
getting our head wrapped around being remote and not going to work. And then there was a lot of confusion because they're like, oh, you're coming in tomorrow. Maybe you're not coming in tomorrow. We didn't have all our equipment. I didn't have the mic to record. It was like really crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, another one. Did you consider in-person and or phone reference for any of the semesters as well?
We actually didn't, because our reference, the library, we were completely closed. I think the building got sealed off, at least until the summer or fall. And we had considered doing a Google phone and then having it forwarded, but there was a lot of librarians that weren't comfortable with that. So we didn't consider it. And then this fall we're doing virtual. I mean, the librarians are remote, even though circulation is in person. And then I know a couple of librarians are going in, but we're not. I think the ultimate decision was not to put anyone in person, keep it all just one way, which is virtual.
Another one, did you find it labor intensive part of your workflow to email or remind faculty about renewals?
Yes, I think it's really, luckily it's, the term I use is, it's a lot of the same professors or frequent repeat offenders. So they kind of know it's coming, but there's a lot of new people that I don't know. There's a lot of adjuncts, especially now with most of the classes being remote. And I feel like I'm kind of in their face, but when they realize how valuable the service is, and like, I'm sure they heard from each other that if Kanopy, a movie disappears and their class was supposed to watch it the next morning, for me to activate and all of that stuff is going to be time consuming. So I think they're actually kind of happy with me. And one even said he's going to bake me a cake when we get back. So I think they recognize the value now, more now than pre-COVID, that like, okay, she's in our face, she's bugging us. Because I usually have this thing where I email them on the 1st of the month or the 2nd of the month saying it's expiring. Then I check with them mid-month if they don't get back to me. And then I check with them 5 days before the expiration, be like, 5 more days, let me know now, or that's it, you know?
Someone wanted to know how we're promoting these services for students. We do have it on our website. Correct?
We do, but mostly we send out emails to the faculty members, and like I said, we didn't want to scare the faculty with too many new resources that they weren't already used to seeing. So we didn't really implement a ton of new programs. That was just our way of doing it. I know other libraries have got these like crazy, like great things that they're doing, but for us, we had to take baby steps with our faculty. So we let the faculty know, and the dean of students know, and the students are emailed directly. Also, sometimes I feel like I do a lot of PR for the library by running a lot of clubs and organizations and directly interacting with students. So I actually tell them all about it. I'm like, I'm the head of PTK, which is the Honor Society. So I feel like I'm telling thousands of students all day long about what the library does, in weird ways. So that's our way of really promoting. It is very difficult to reach students during this time. I feel like they're very scattered. And on top of that, if you can't get faculty buy-in for your services, it does become quite difficult to, or the dean of students buy-in, it does become quite difficult to engage with them. I found it really hard to get students to come to anything that was like a library orientation if it wasn't mandatory, right? If some class didn't require it for a grade, and that's not something that really happens at Nassau. So yeah, the other sort of circuitous ways are to run some clubs and organizations and sort of promote library services in that manner.
Thank you. We are at 2:40 now, and I'd just like to thank all three of you for such a great presentation and a spirited conversation afterwards. It was really, really great. So thank you for that.